Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another Derbyshire church. This is the church at Alkmonton. This is St John's, Alkmonton. The village name actually comes from St Alkmont, and there must have been a church dedicated to him here somewhere. Not here. This building was only constructed in 1843. During the Black Death in the 14th century, Alkmonton and the neighbouring village of Hungary Bentley were severely affected, to the point that the villages essentially ceased to exist. And the church here was lost. It wasn't on this site, it was somewhere else. No one's quite sure where. The church disappeared. Stones, if stones there were, if it wasn't wood, were taken away. And all that survives now is a font. But in 1843, a new church is built here, consecrated 1848. It's restored, rebuilt, altered in 1873. And we'll see as we go around some of the alterations that were made. So St John's, Almonton, it's a early 19th century church, well, mid-19th century church, and it's to do with the village here, basically ceases to exist pretty much in the 14th century. And it's only 1843 that anyone thinks, well, the village now is viable enough to have a new church. So we'll look around and see, you can see in this building. So as usual, we'll begin at the west end. 1843 is that period when people are thinking in terms now of, well, so the Church of England starting to think in terms of expansion, and starting to think, hang on a minute, if we don't have new churches in the villages, then the villages are just going to become Methodist. And so there is that element of, shall we say, ecclesiastical competition going on. The organ here, single manual with foot pedals, pedal-board, it's Wadsworth of Manchester. And step back and have a bit of a look at that now. So that's the organ, nice organ case, nice fake pipes in the front and the real ones behind them. The west door now goes absolutely nowhere. It just opens and apparently there's a thing to ring the bells with, but I'm not going to try that. I mean, opening it, I'm also trying to ring the bells, that's wrong, you're not supposed to do that. It's going to be kept locked. But this is the font. Big Norman tub. There was definitely an ancient church in the village. This was found apparently in a field somewhere. Whether the church was in that field or not is another matter, because it may very well have been moved and then used to feed, well, as a water trough rather, cattle. But anyway, back to the west door. This was originally the front door. It's been replaced. It's replaced with a porch on the south side. The seating also has been replaced in the 1870s. Pulpit, similar sort of date. It's a very simple building, really. The lancet style pointed windows, what's known as early pointed, is deliberate. It's a relatively cheap form of Gothic architecture. I suspect that the chancel arch is, however, 1870s. I have no reason to do so, I just do, but it may very well be original. Here we have east window, triple lancet, typical of these buildings. The roof there. When I first visited, they were having problems with plaster falling off the roof, and they do appear to have some trouble recently. It's a united benefice with, well, much more than that, but this is the banner of the Mothers' Union, which is united Alkmonton with Yevley. I mean, whether there still is a Mothers' Union, actually, we should be able to tell. Joined together the Mothers' Union as they met, so it's looks to be former days. The Mothers' Union, again, is a society, a Church of England society for encouraging particularly younger mothers. It eventually became rather a society for older women, just because If you didn't get any new members, that's what happens in the Society for Young Women. It becomes one for old women. And there we have the West End. We've got a couple of windows here. Nice. A bit of problem with damp. These things happen. And the text God is love there over the old doorway. St Paul and Lydia. These are memorials to Alphaeus Slight, vicar of this parish, 1846 to 1886. So basically he's the first vicar. And there we have the font. And here we have a couple of memorials to men, actually 2 brothers killed in the First World War. Driver Bertram Gadsby, later the Royal Field Artillery, the beloved son of George and Henrietta Gadsby of Hungary Bentley, who died of wounds in France, April 16, 1918, aged 24 years. And on the other side we have his younger brother, in loving memory of Private Oswald Henry, son of George and Henrietta Gadsby of Hungary Bentley, who died at Salonika, November the 2nd, 1916, aged 24 years. So two sons killed in the war. It's the organ console. Marvellous building, very simple, sort of place I like, and it's a lovely setting as well, as we'll see when we go outside. And so here we are outside at Alkmonton. You see the building's quite unusual in that it is basically pebble dash outside. I suspect it's brick with a pebble coating. It would be typical of the period. If it was stone, I would expect the stone to be exposed. So I think this is brick with pebbles and then stone dressings. Little turret there, that turret is from the 1840s, not 1870s rebuilding, and that's the reason, one of the reasons why the west door has been obliterated on the outside, hasn't just been left as a secondary door, it doesn't exist anymore. So let's have a look around the outside. This is the south side, of course, and we'll go around the north side, which is harder to view because that's the side against the road, and this is the side with the great big graveyard, and it's the side with the nice sunny aspect. I suspect it was quite a cheap building to construct, and I suspect that was part of the reason. That's part of the reason why it's got this pebble coating rather than being stone. And it's a small village. There's no big country house here. There's no way that in the 1840s there would have been somebody with loads and loads of money saying, build a church, money no object. Rather, you'd have build a church and let's make sure that we count the pennies. So, and this whacking great tree. So here's the north side. You see the daffodils there, the lovely. There's the vestry, and proceed quietly around here. And there's the close up at the pebble in cement coating of the walls, and here again the stone buttresses, but I suspect underneath those pebbles there's brick rather than yes, some idiot has broken a window, never mind. And there we see you've got this little cubby basically at the west end, and this buttress supporting the turret up there, and that's why the doorway has been obliterated on the outside, because there is a little cubby. And back around to this nice wooden porch. Wooden porches, obviously this is 1870s, and it looks quite good. It's sort of thing that it does enhance the building. So that is St John's, Alkmonton. And so there we have it, St John's, Alkmonton. It's a lovely little building here in the Derbyshire countryside. Again, it feels away from most things. We're not in the Peak District. We're not that far from Derby, but we are far enough to be in the countryside. It's a lovely building and lovely location. And again, it's well worth a visit. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.